The reason why I hate Diary of a Wimpy Kid No Brainer is due to its logical inconsistencies. There are a lot of things that break with the continuity of the series, and just a lot of mistakes in general. It starts on the very first page when Greg Heffley puts his finger on a hot stove. His excuse is that he doesn't know why his brain is making him do these stupid things, but that's just ridiculous. I don't know a single 13-year-old who has willingly put his hand on the stove. And same thing on the second drawing. Just come on, Greg. Like, you're really stupid here. Now let's go on to Susan on page 3. Here, she's complaining that Miss O'Malley is the one who is talking to Mrs. Ferguson behind her back. However, Susan talked to Mrs. Hills behind Greg's back. So Susan here is just a massive hypocrite. And why are we supposed to take her side? The writing in this book is also very lazy. He says that the problem with the brain is that there's only a limited amount of room in there, and eventually he's going to want to buy more memory. But this is the same exact thing he said in a previous book. In Diary of a Wimpy Kid Double Down, the 11th book in the series, Greg says that your brain only has so much space in it, and that there's nothing you can remember when you get new information. This entire intro about the human brain and its ability to learn is what sets up the plot of the story about Greg's dysfunctional school. So the fact that it's just repeated from a previous book means that the writing was incredibly lazy. Speaking to callbacks, there isn't any sort of consistency between the teachers. For example, in No Brainer, Greg's algebra teacher is Mrs. Kwan, but in Diary of a Wimpy Kid: The Ugly Truth, it's revealed that the teacher is actually Mrs. McElroy. Here's also an inconsistency. Greg apparently got a bad grade on a history paper because he had to use a computer that was missing all the vowels, but why couldn't he just type the paper at home? Also, this is a very poor world history curriculum. It starts off with Greg learning about the ancient pyramids, and now midway through the book, all of a sudden, for world history, they're learning about the Industrial Revolution. We went from 2500 BC to the 1800s in a completely different region. So we go from 2500 BC to the 1800s in a completely different region of the world, and all of that information is going to be on an exam. This is a completely unrealistic history curriculum that the students are being tested on. And you know what else is unrealistic? Susan supporting fudge dogs. It's tofu dipped in a bunch of chocolate, and Susan is an absolute health freak. According to Greg, she's absolutely terrible at picking out snacks, and she has a really strong idea of health. She even makes her own lunch bags for road trips, and would strongly disapprove of any kind of, unhealthy food, such as butter on a stick. So the fact that she is eating a fudge dog is just absolute hypocrisy. Furthermore, on page 76, Greg draws himself winning a fudge dog eating competition, and that's his big plan on how he's going to make a name for himself. However, Greg said earlier on page 67 that whenever he has more than one hot fudge dog, he doesn't feel like he's at his best. So Greg should definitely not be standing upright with a smile on his face here. Here's another mistake. On page 86, Greg says that he spends about a half of his lunch period trying to figure out which paper bag is his. But the solution is so simple. Write your name on it. We see this in Diary of a Wimpy Kid: The Ugly Truth, one of the earliest books in the series. Here is a drawing error. If you look at the newspaper, The Student Crier, you will see that there is an extra space between the word writing and the word high. And lastly, on page 155, all of the kids, especially the good ones, were acting out in class in order to get sent to the principal's office so that they can get a lollipop. This included Alex Aruda, who was one of the smartest kids in Greg's grade, and we've known about him for a very long time. However, the way Alex Aruda is depicted is completely different to how he's depicted in the first few books. For one, in the earlier books, we do not see any of his pupils, nor have we ever seen him wear a short-sleeved shirt. On top of that, if Alex Aruda is the smartest kid in Greg's grade, then he would be in the High Flyers Club, who are allowed to get snacks and drinks during class, and hang out in the teacher's lounge. Aruda fits the criteria, so he shouldn't be acting out to get a lollipop.